Hello everyone, Mad Bad Voodoo wrote to me a couple of nights ago and suggested I do another video, so here I am. You'll probably notice that my hair is longer and more dishevelled at this point than it's ever been. I'm aware of this. I need to go and get it cut. However, now that we've got that out of the way, here's what I want to talk about for this particular video. I recently saw a scenario where Tonya TKO was nearly arrested and forced to, or was at least forced to turn her camera off when she went to the voting booth to vote. Now, look, it seems as though every time I get on the internet recently, every other day, I'm reading about someone in America being detained, held without charge or trial, sometimes for 24 hours at a time. As I said, it seems to happen pretty much every other day. Apparently the police are out of control. They've become more bold pretty much than they've ever been. And I've heard stories of them not only locking people up for hours at a time, but also basically shoving a gun in your face if they decide they don't like your haircut. So, we essentially have a scenario now where we can safely say that it's moved past the conspiracy theory stage and into cold hard reality. The fascist takeover of America is apparently now in full swing. So, I bet you're probably asking yourselves, well, what can we do about this happy state of affairs? Well, there's a couple of practical things that I actually wanted to suggest to some of you. I need to go to bed fairly soon, so I'm going to try and make this quick. However, the main thing that I wanted to mention to you is this. This is fundamental, right? And I am not advocating, by the way, any of the things that a number of other people you've probably heard advocate. But this is the one question that if things like this are going on, you find yourself freaking out. This is a question I often had to ask myself, at least during the latter part of my adolescence, and it served me very well. The question is this: how can I remain A, alive, B, psychologically sane, and C, outside of a jail cell for the next single 24-hour period? Right? Can I remain A, physically alive, B, sane and in a relative state of peace, and C, outside of a jail cell for the next single 24-hour period? If the answer to that question is yes, whatever else you think that you're worried about or scared of, get rid of it. Get it out of your head, because I'm telling you, if you can answer yes to that question, you really don't have, in the grand scheme of things, a huge amount of other stuff to worry about. Now, the single main reason why I mention that is because the single biggest way that any of us need to change as far as the political scenario is concerned, because this basically hinges on everything, is our priorities, right? We have been conditioned, and this isn't just Americans, by the way, this is everybody. Everyone living in this quote-unquote modern contemporary society, we've been conditioned to believe that we need a whole lot of things that we really don't, okay? So I'm going to talk about eliminating a lot of these things that you really don't need, because it will really help you psychologically. It will help you in a couple of different ways. It will help you psychologically, emotionally, and developmentally. And by the way, I'm not just being a hypocrite here. I'm going to be talking from the vantage point to a degree of experience, because these are things that I've eliminated from my own life, and I'm very much happier and better off for it. The first thing, eliminate television. Get rid of it. If you've got one, pitch it out the window. My housemate has a TV. I don't have a TV, and I don't watch his. About all he uses his for is his Xbox and some DVDs, but he doesn't actually watch free-to-air or pay TV virtually at all. Now, why is that important, I hear you ask? And more to the point, why would I tell you to give up TV if I'm not going to be telling you to give up the internet? Well, you see, it's really very simple. On the internet, you can basically choose what it is that you watch. You can choose what information you perceive. With TV, you can't. That's why with TV, they have things like Fox News, Bill O'Reilly. You know about Bill O'Reilly. On the internet, though, you don't have to watch Bill O'Reilly. You can actually go and get real news instead. You don't have to pay attention to the quote-unquote corporate media. You can go and look up other stuff. And you can decide whether or not you want to be exposed to the celebrity gossip crap, which I'll talk more about in a minute, but which I also do not expose myself to. The only time that I hear about that sort of thing is when I'm looking at YouTube. Okay, so what's the next thing? The next thing to get rid of, in my own mind anyway, and by the way, you're free to adopt or ignore any of these, of course. They're just things that have really helped me. The next thing that I really think that we'd all be better off without are consumer electronics. Now, when I talk about consumer electronics, I'm not talking about a desktop computer. At the moment, I'm talking specifically about two things. One, the iPod. Two, mobile phones. Right now, I know there's going to be a lot of you out there who are going to say, I can't get rid of my mobile phone, it's my life, it's my business, I die without it. Bullshit. Two words, bullshit. You would not physically die without a mobile phone. You won't. And here's another thing that you might be interested in. From everything I've ever heard or read about mobile phones, you might actually die because of keeping the mobile phone rather than getting rid of it. Those things put out toxic, carcinogenic radiation. And if you're holding it right close to your head on a daily basis, people have and do develop brain tumours as a result of them. Okay? If you can, use landlines or use the internet, use email. Right? I use email for pretty much all of the communication that I do. And a lot of other people use email. It's great for that. And there are other things online that you can use as well. Okay, so that's the mobile phone. The iPod. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. They're junk. Now, why do I call them junk? They're junk because, again, you're running the risk of putting radiation straight into your head. They're junk because they're not made to last, but they're not really made to be recycled either. Okay? And the third thing is they're junk because you really don't need them. Right? You might remember the Walkmans from the 80s. I don't know whether they still sell them, but if you can look around, possibly find one of those. Try and find one maybe that's actually made of metal rather than just cheap throwaway plastic, so that it'll actually last for a while. And cassette tapes, in that sense, they're going to be a lot healthier. I mean, you're not... Yeah. But look, more than anything else, if you really want to listen to music, just listen to it when you get home. I mean, the single biggest other thing that I've been learning lately is actually to really enjoy silence. Because I'll tell you what, that can really help you mentally and psychologically as well. Right, so that was number 2. Number 3. One of the things that I'm still in the process of doing is getting rid of caffeine and refined sugar. I just recently went through a period where I completely got rid of Coca-Cola. Unfortunately, I went straight back onto another carbonated beverage, which I'm currently in the process of giving up. But during the in-between phase, between giving up the Coke and getting on the other thing, I noticed my weight went down dramatically in only about 2 weeks. Right? People wonder what it is that's making them fat. Carbonated soft drinks are one of the biggest things. Right? Caffeine is also really bad for you taken on a prolonged basis. The thing about both of these things, I know that the reason why most of us drink them, consume them, is in order to get a hit of energy, right? The thing to realise though is that after a while, your energy levels from these things crash and go down to a level that is actually lower than they were when you actually consumed these things. So they actually end up causing lethargy. So, what am I replacing these things with myself? Well, one thing I've started drinking a lot of is tea. This is lemon tea. I've been drinking Earl Grey. Some of them have a certain amount of caffeine. You don't have to drink the ones with caffeine though. There's a lot of herb teas on the market, and they are, I think, a lot better for you. So, that's a big thing. Okay, that was the third thing. The fourth thing for me, and again this is for me, I am trying to minimise the amount of red meat, pork or ham products, and chicken in my diet. Now that does not mean that I'm becoming a vegan. I still eat dairy stuff, I still eat fish. And truthfully, I still am eating a minor amount of red meat occasionally, right? So I'm sort of in a transitional process with that. But if you can start to minimise it, you will notice that you do feel a lot better physically and psychologically, or at least I have. And I know most of the other people who've been doing it have said that they do. And it will do wonders. It will do wonderful, wonderful things for your long-term health. Both of my grandparents died of cancer. They ate red meat twice a day, every day for 50 years. And I'm very, very much inclined to believe that said red meat consumption played a very large part in what it was that actually killed them. I know, we're going to get old, we're going to die anyway, that happens. But we can, I think, to some degree choose whether or not we maintain some sort of quality of life right up to that point, and that's personally what I'm interested in trying to do. Another thing that I've been finding really good myself, again, not only on the cancer score, but for a lot of different reasons, garlic. Eat as much of it, within reason, but as much of it within reason on a daily basis as you can. I've only been sick once in probably the last 4 years, and the only reason why I got sick then, just recently, is because I actually stopped taking garlic. I have a garlic sandwich with 2 teaspoons of minced garlic once a day, and sometimes I'll have a meal with probably another 2 teaspoons of minced garlic in it after that. If you can stand to do that, I really recommend it. You won't get sick if you do it, virtually at all. You just won't. Okay, so these are all basically just really minor things. The other thing that I wanted to mention is basically giving up the celebrity gossip. Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson, all these sorts of people, right? it really doesn't have any impact on our lives, personally, specifically, on as to whether or not these women are having to go back into rehab this week. Okay? Those stories are put out as news by their publicists, those women's publicists, in order to help their careers. It doesn't help us to know that information, and the only thing that it really does is distract us from more important things, like what's happening politically, what's happening with our health, what's happening with the environment, things like that, right? They, in my own mind anyway, are far more important things than that sort of stuff. So these are just some basic things that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to give you. The other thing is, I don't advocate physical revolution, because apart from anything else, a physical revolution, an external revolution, is not going to happen unless an internal one happens first. And that's the whole reason why things have gone the way they have politically, not only in America but in other places anyway, simply because people have become too apathetic and people have got their priorities really screwed up. If you want to know how to fix things politically, don't look at basically stocking up on food and ammunition in that sense, because if you do, the only thing you're going to do is fall foul of the law, and you really don't want that at this point. The single main reason why you don't want to fall foul of the law now is because the way things are, if you end up in a jail cell at this point, you're very likely never going to get out of it again. Habeas corpus, in America in particular, is gone. And this is something I was reading about on Project Censored just yesterday, I think it was. It's not just gone for illegal immigrants or terrorists, it's gone for domestic white Americans as well. That means you can be called an enemy combatant, or they don't even need to do that, and you can be detained without charge or trial indefinitely. And again, they can do that no matter who you are. It has been signed into law. It is not just for illegal immigrants. It is not just for Middle Eastern terrorists. It's for anyone who lives in that country. As a final thing, if you have the ability, and if you're not on the no-fly list yet, do yourself a favour, jump on a plane and get the hell out of that country. Go somewhere else, really, if you can. Now, I'm not saying that it's necessarily all that much better anywhere. I'm hoping it doesn't get that bad here. I don't think it has yet, however it could. But if you can get out of America, if you're listening to this, do so, because from everything that I'm seeing, I see it as soon as I wake up. The stuff arriving in my email inbox as soon as I wake up about there was some guy who had homemade chocolate. I was reading about this just yesterday. He was detained for 10 hours on charges of smuggling hashish. This happened first in Canada because he was a Canadian trying to get into America, and then it happened in America again as soon as he crossed the border, even though once he got it sorted out in Canada, he thought it was sorted out then, right? Transport officials have also gone power mad, and they will treat you however they want, simply because it's become the case that they can. But again, if you're not on the domestic no-fly list and you have the money, leave the country. I don't exactly know where else to go, but it is something that I would definitely recommend that the Americans that I talk to on here anyway do as soon as possible, because at this point it is only going to get worse. I'm not saying that to be a fearmonger, but believe it. I know that a lot of you will already be able to see this yourselves. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. I don't know whether this actually... Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. This is something that Mad Bad Voodoo will already know about. So this isn't directed so much to him, but to any of the rest of you who haven't learnt this, fire building in particular, things like that, they're really, really good skills to know about. I think most flint and steel fire starting implements these days have magnesium rods. Mad Bad will probably be able to talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, those sorts of things, and getting the priorities right, really, really, really getting back to basics is, I think, a good thing. It's a good idea. We'll talk to everyone soon. Hey Mad Bad. Hey Tonya. Hey Amazing Atheist, you might see this. And hey everyone else who I've forgotten. I'll talk soon.